Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we are here today for Cinephile Saturday, Episode 2. Yeah, it's been a long time since Episode 1, but we're back on track. And I'm here today with Dan from the Black and Blue Collar Reader, and we'll be discussing Natural Born Killers, the 1994 Oliver Stone film that we were just talking a second ago, but that I feel like I should have watched back in the 90s. But Dan,
Yeah,
yeah,
when you said you didn't want you haven't watched this, I was floored. I'm like, I thought for sure that Steve of all people would have seen this movie.
it's right in my alley, too. I remember when it came out, and it's all during that whole time period is like that's the type of movies I loved, like all the Tarantino stuff, like Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. It was for whatever reason, and I love Oliver Stone, and for just whatever reason, I just didn't see it all these years. But yeah, so what's your experience with it? When did you first see it?
Oh, I saw this movie back in the '90s when it came out. I think I was like early in my high school days, and it was a cult classic, man. And there's a lot of rock and roll types. I mean, this was a rock and roll type movie, with just all out violence and craziness. And Tarantino was involved in the movie, and anything that Tarantino touched, I was all over. I believe True Romance,
Mhm.
and I just love those excessively violent movies, but that were different, that were something new, that wasn't, that had great funny dialogue, like something you've never really heard of before. And this was one of those movies that I really enjoyed, when I was a kid back at the turn of the century. Mhm.
You saying that you enjoyed this movie as a kid is a little bit troubling. I don't know. I gotta say,
It is, but I was in my
yeah.
teens. I believe I was 14, 15 when this movie came out. And I remember it being bloody and graphic, and I remember it getting a lot of flack
Hmm.
in the media, which was funny because it was definitely throwing shots at the media back then.
Yeah, that's one thing that because I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't know that Tarantino wrote the screenplay for this one at all. I had no idea until I saw the beginning, the introduction, the kind of the credits in the beginning. But I was surprised because I didn't know it'd be so satirical. I didn't expect that. Kind of threw me off a little bit because I thought it was like a
Yeah, it was
straightforward
so
narrative.
it seemed absurdist
Mhm.
at times, like especially your parts with Robert Downey Jr. Being the reporter who knows what we love. And that, unfortunately, that's still the case. There are, Game of Thrones, what did not become such a powerhouse hit if it didn't have all that sex and violence in
Mhm.
it. And we, as at least American society, we eat that shit up
Yeah.
left and right. If there's something going on outside our street, if we hear gunshots, we're sticking our heads out to check it out. It was, and I just loved how he did that through shots at. And if you were a kid in the '90s, this was the rise of those crime shows that they made fun of within this movie, the dramatization. And it was, somebody playing Mickey and Mallory. Like, I watched those shows constantly on ID channel. I believe they were on A&E back in the day.
Mhm.
And I remember that I drank the juice. I was definitely enthralled by real stories of violence. And you know, this movie really just, I believe this is post Columbine, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
Um,
Columbine was at
it could be, it is
'97.
right around that time. And it's crazy, with the mass shootings going on, just in our society today, that this movie is still relevant. to this day. It's a shame that it is.
Mm.
It's that it is, but it is. We still have these issues of trying to be famous. That was another bit of a theme, and being famous, however you were able to do it, whether it was violence or through other means.
I think this was during the time with like the OJ trial, and I'm sure you remember that whole thing. I mean, that's all the sensationalism, and I think it's holding a mirror back up on all of us. I mean, to some point. I mean, because we absorb that stuff. I mean, at some point. So I can see why the media wouldn't be too
Yeah, the
happy.
people that love this movie for the reasons that I stated earlier, the violence, the sex, the graphic nature, the cursing, it's basically, it is making fun of its
Mm.
viewer. It's like you are the reason this is being a satire. Like, we're making fun of you, and this is not that it was totally blatant, but it was definitely there that and they had this whole cult following, and we have plenty of people out there that love our serial killer
Mm.
documentaries, and I'm one of them. And I am, and I know I shouldn't love it, but I can't help it sometimes.
Yeah, and I think the Night Stalker was around this time too. I think he had women, you know, calling him and wanting to get. I think he got married in
Yep,
prison.
I think he was married in prison actually to. I don't know if he still is, but I do remember hearing him being married. Ted Bundy was married. Um, these they become icons, and that's what this movie was stating, is this whole spree shooting, and Mickey and Mallory were sensationalized, and that's why it was so graphic. He was making a point, that it was so over the top. Some scenes here, at the end in the prison, you're just walking through this prison, and each person you walk by is being strangled, or their throats are getting cut, or they're being put in an oven, and it was over the top for a
Mm.
purpose. And I thought it was an excellent movie. And I just it still hit me today when I watch it again, even after I've seen the movie probably 4 or 5 times in my life.
Even that many times, I don't know is enough to get all the little details in it. Because even like
Yep.
in the bedroom scenes with Mickey and Mallory, when they have the hostage in the room, there's like nature shows on the walls, and
Yeah.
all the different kind of film stock that they use, and the black and white for the flashbacks, and all like it's the way that it's edited makes you feel uncomfortable in a way, because it's really abrupt. Like everything, it like flashes of things. It's like supposed to keep you off kilter. It seems like.
Yeah, but I think it's also supposed to throw you, because it's throwing it in your face. Like,
Mm.
I believe that, the title of this, Natural Born Killers, there's a lot of things that we can take out of that. Nature versus
Mm.
nurture. Are humans inherently violent? Is that our nature? And will we continue to crave this, embrace our violent nature to get ahead? And with the flashes that you've seen are, you know, examples of when violence kind of wins out. And it's something, even, a recent book I've read, Blood Meridian, this is a total theme of whether this is human nature, or whether this is something that we can control, and and hold back, or are we going to continue to be violent, throughout our time on this planet? Are we going to continue to subjugate the weaker of the people? Yeah, there's just so much to be said about this movie, and the statements that it was making.
One of the things that I think were the most, it's probably the scenes I like the most, but they're the most for me. It was the most I don't know, kind of the most disturbing, I guess, were the sitcom scenes,
That I love that because all right, I was guessing it was a play on who's the
like Archie
racist
Bunker, All in the
Art.
Family. Yeah,
That's yes, yeah, Archie Bunker, and when you looked at that, they were laughing at some horrible things. The crowd was laughing at like sexual, pedophilia and all these things and misogyny and domestic violence, and it was just all grazed over and laughed over. It was I loved that how the structure of this whole movie was absolutely bonkers. Because we are thrown into that sitcom, and then we are thrown into drug-fueled rages, and I just love how it was edited and done. With they're driving a car, but you can tell that the scene in front of you is not what they're driving down. It's like a weird, flashing desert land, and they're getting crazy in the car. I just love the different taste, and you can see. I could just gush about it, I guess. With the cartoon and the animation added into it was another thing. It was he played with a lot of things within this movie, and I thought they all were done quite successfully. Though the absurdity, the blatant, things kind of droned on you like, oh my God, is Robert Downey Jr. really going to join them and start killing everybody? That was, overdone in my
hmm.
opinion, but it still worked. It was kind of absurd, but, back then that was a reporter's dream to cover something of that magnitude.
Yeah, like the has as over the top as he was, and everyone is a little over the top. I mean, everyone's a little bit, like an exaggeration of what they are.
Yes. Mhm.
But yeah, Robert Downey Jr.'s character was because, like you said, it's his dream to interview them, and he almost encourages because he wants it to be this, post Super Bowl. He wants it to have all the eyeballs on it. He wants to be famous, and he's also trying to become more famous, than he already was. So they're all
That's
seeking fame.
funny how they threw that in with the Super Bowl,
Hmm.
the most watched American event in all the country, and this is after it. So we go from watching a violent game,
Hmm.
you know, to watching this. Nobody's going to click off because we that's our nature. We want to see more, and that it rolls right after the football game. I just was another. These are little things that he just puts in here that just work so well.
Hmm. That was interesting. I didn't think about that about the Super Bowl being it's of like a violent
Yeah,
sport.
and they had it it was throwing you know it was kind of saying that Americans we are too engrossed in television, and you could see it flash across. I think Mickey and Mallory at the end. We watch too much TV. It was that like in your face. To the point where like what, like I get it, Oliver Stone. We're not stupid. Like you can calm down on some of this, but yeah, with it had a lot to say about us as a society. I think, and I really enjoy movies like that. Kind of like Crash is, and if you've never
Hmm.
seen Crash, that is an exceptional movie in my opinion.
The one with James Spader or the other one, the Matt Dillon
It
one.
had Brendan Fraser. It had Sandra Bullock.
Hmm.
I think it won an Oscar. It had a lot to do with race
Oh.
and gender, and it was just exceptional.
Hmm. Yeah, I've seen that one. It's been a while, but yeah, Don Cheadle, Sandra Bullock, Thandie Newton.
Yeah, Don. Yep. There's so many like I'm thinking like movies like that made these background actors so much more. We're talking Sandra Bullock and Brendan Fraser, Don Cheadle. I'm sure I can't remember any more of them, but a movie like that really kind of made some of these actors, brought them back in the spotlight and things like that. It
There's
was such a good movie.
there's also a lot of references to the American kind of. It's also a it also plays it's also plays satire about our society and media and us consuming the media, but also about the American kind of the things we're obsessed with. Um, like
Obsession, yes.
the open road and guns and all these things that we are obsessed with, and
Yep.
it's so he does
Freedom,
freedom.
right? Yeah. How about that? They did speak about, I'll kill you and you'll be free, or freedom from this life to move into a next one. They talked about their ideologies as well, and a lot of it having to do with freedom, and that, yes, definitely could be tied into American society. Um, Anarchy, not being told what to do, very libertarian type outlook.
Mhm. Yeah, the another thing that really well, because I hadn't seen the movie, but I had listened to the soundtrack. I don't know how many times. So the soundtrack I thought was very of the time, but I think they did a good job of when to insert certain music and when not to.
Yeah, so there was some Mazzy Star. I remember that because I was a big, not a huge Mazzy Star fan, but there was Sweet Jane.
Hmm.
It was in that. Trying to see
Leonard
what was
Cohen,
actually on the soundtrack also.
a lot of Leonard Cohen. There was also
Oh,
what
yeah, I
else?
remember Everybody Knows by Leonard Cohen. That's another movie. I think I asked you to check the other movie with Leonard Cohen in it, but let me see. I was looking for the songs on it, but I can't really find them right now. Oh, here we go.
Uh,
Yep, Leonard,
mhm.
Waiting for a Miracle.
Lou Reed, Trent
Yeah.
Reznor.
Hmm.
I think he
And
compiled it.
we also had, they were eating mushrooms
Hmm.
and tripping their ass off. So there has to be some sort of 60s acid rock in there somewhere. Um, can't really. There's Jane's Addiction, I
Hmm.
think, is in there as well. Oh, Sweet Jane, they're saying it's the Junkie Cowboys,
Hmm.
but I thought they were. I thought it was Maz. I'm pretty sure Mazzy Star did a Sweet Jane.
Kenny Lane and Patti Smith.
Hmm.
A lot of very Peter Gabriel. The
Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Oh
Hmm.
yeah, Bob Dylan.
I think they're even saying that Dr. Dre is in
Hmm.
some. It has a song in there as well.
Yeah, he did
That's great.
Snoop Dogg and the Dog Pound.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I thought that was all done pretty well too. It is and I've also read that Oliver Stone is tripping out of his mind when he made when he was putting this together.
I I can totally see that because every cut is kind of cartoonish in a way, where I was saying, at least with Robert Downey Jr., it's so over the top. Even with Tommy Lee Jones being um, the warden
Hmm.
in that, he was so over the top, and and it was very psychedelic in nature. If you really, and they would say a sentence and then they would repeat it in a different color, like a black and white color of them. And it was, I love that. I mean, I could not get enough of the trippy nature of the directing and the shooting.
What did you think about Tom Sizemore? He's the detective. Let me grab his name.
Right. When I saw him, I'm like, you know what? I know Tarantino was a big fan
Hmm.
of Sizemore, right? And is in a bunch of Tarantino movies. I was. That's where the obsession, like in America's obsession with things, the murderers, the drugs, the And that's it. Didn't us even when we find somebody who was supposed to be the good guy, right? He's supposed to be the cop in this, the good guy that's going to save people, from Mickey and Mallory. He turns out to be just as evil as the rest of them, and I think I love that part. It definitely says a lot. You could definitely get into a lot about that.
I kind of wondered if it's Jack Scagnetti, and he has his own book. He's also, carving out his own little corner for fame and attention. But I wondered, is the commentary there that you need to be a monster to hunt monsters?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I think that these are themes that were addressed in some other movies. I'm not sure if I'm trying to think of another movie that had that that the people that are being you like you said, to be a monster, to hunt a monster, you need to become a monster. And I these murderers, obviously they think differently. They don't think like you or I. And to get into somebody's head like that, I'm not sure if Silence of the Lambs, they were, our protagonist was trying to get into head of another serial killer to catch one serial killer. So that's another movie that kind of did that. That's you need to, you know, dive deep into the darkness in order to, chase somebody of that, mindset.
Mhm. And of course, at the center of this whole thing is this relationship with with Mickey and Mallory, and their
Yeah, greatest love story
yeah.
ever told. I mean, hey, how about that? They get away at the end, and they're living in a van with their kids. This is the greatest love story ever. Guys, go watch this movie. No need to watch Romeo and Juliet. This is where it's at.
Well, I wondered if was that the ending, or is that what they kind of had in their minds that they would end up being eventually? Was
I thought that was the ending. They walked off. That part where Mickey tells Robert Downey Jr. that there's no helicopters coming from you. You are not important.
yeah.
They don't care about you. And he walks off. That was hysterical. And he walks off, and you do see flashes of them now living a happy family. Basically, somebody who has watched and watched all this violence. At the end they're saying you're still you did all this, you've witnessed all this, yet you can still be a normal person.
Hmm.
And that that is just your obsession, or that was something that can be put away, and become a normal human being, with a family and things like that. I think that also said a lot.
And they do have some self control because they do always leave a survivor. So they did have, because they had a plan. It wasn't just murder for murder's sake. I guess in a sense it was, but they also wanted the attention. They wanted someone to tell the story.
So this was definitely, I'm not sure if you've read Blood Meridian, but it has a lot of parallels. The stories have a lot of parallels to them, at least in what the judge was saying about human nature. And also, we didn't even kind of touch on this. This is natural born killers. Like, there's that total nature versus nurture. And are we born inherently evil, or is it a product of our upbringing? But both of these characters had some really horrible upbringing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those scenes were, I think, probably the most, let's see, disturbing, or they were the most moving scenes of what their childhoods, and kind of what they had both gone through and how that affected them through the rest of their lives.
Because that's always, when it comes to serial killers, the reason we are so fascinated because we can't understand it, right? We are always asking, and our fascination as to why did they do this? How could they do this? And when you are given, it's not really answers, but you are given not justifications, but why they can bring themselves to murder somebody and act this way. It's because they have been. I would say there are a lot of serial killers that have had rough upbringings. You mentioned the Night Stalker. Bundy, I think was told his mother was his sister and was raised by the grandparent or something like that. Dennis Rader, though, I think he was okay growing up. That's BTK. I don't think there was much in his background, but the Green River Killer was abused by his mother as a child, sexually abused by his mother as a child. So these are all the things that we want, and we want to know why. And of course, like always within the movie, you are provided with some of the background, some of the context of why these two are doing what they are doing.
So does that play, like you mentioned the title about natural born killers, does that play with the title of kind of they went through this but they still chose?
So yeah, with natural born killers, I don't. So I think it had more. It was the question, At the end, he does say he's like, "'Cause I'm a natural born killer." But I don't think that's the in this is the argument that has been going on for centuries, I believe. Is it heredity, or is it the atmosphere you're raised in, or is it a combination of both? And I believe, at least for me, it's a combination of both. Yes, some people are just born evil, and you can't find anything in their background to suggest why they would do such things. And then some people you can definitely find pinpoint areas where they were abused, and this is how they coped with it, or this is how why they lashed out. But it's an ongoing argument that I don't think will ever be rectified, because like I said, we do find killers that are that had a wonderful childhood, and nobody can understand why they did the things they did.
The performances, I felt like were all. I wondered if everyone was in on what this was going to be, because when you read the script, without knowing how it was going to be edited, I wondered how that filming went, or how kind of is this what they all expected to?
It's kind of swashbuckling, like these, like Tommy Lee and Juliette Lewis. That's who it was, right? Juliette Lewis and Robert Downey Jr. Like their acting was flamboyant. It was very loud to get their point across. I believe that the director was like, "This is what I'm looking for. I want you to smack people in the face with what I'm trying to get across, rather than making it subtle." Because if he wanted to make a subtle movie, it would not have been this violent. And you could make a very, a good subtle movie, but I believe the violence definitely had a purpose within this movie.
Yeah, you mentioned too about the sensationalism, and I think there was like Halloween costumes of Mickey and Mallory, and I think they were interviewing kids, and they said, "Well, we don't think it's right that murderers are wrong and all, but we love Mickey and Mallory." Kind of like it's we think it's wrong, but we still love them because they're rock stars. They're larger than life.
And that's the way it is today, or at least back then. I mean, these were sensationalized events. I mean, when you think back, the Menendez brothers,
Mm.
um, um, the guy who was beaten, Rodney King,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it keeps going on to even how over sensationalized or over publicized the recent killings of the two. There was a man and woman that were in a there were these two kids missing from a long time. It was about 8, maybe a year and a half. There were kids missing, and they had the mother, and she took off with her husband to Hawaii, and they picked her up and they brought her back, and she was part of a cult. I forget her name, but I'm not even into the news. But when I heard about this story, how crazy it was, I actually tuned in. And it's sad, but that's what we want to see.
I think it even takes us back to like the Colosseum, like the Roman, because
Yeah,
it's kind of like we always, is that just part of our nature? Is that we crave those things that we've always been, like tabloids and violence, and is that just our nature, or is that something else at play?
I I believe it's in there. I believe it deep down. This is something. I have a so this is in our nature, right? So I have a dog, and not the little
Oh,
guy,
okay.
not the little guy, the other guy, Jackson Brown, right? So when I'm sleeping on my bed, these are domesticated animals for centuries and centuries and centuries, right? My dog has never met another um, hound, or what is he, an Australian, he's some sort of hound, right? And when I'm in my bed, my dog will jump up onto my bed and like hip check me to sleep on my back. Like I'm laying down and he will sleep on my back. And that's how they did it when they were when they were groups with that were not brought into
Mhm.
homes. They were, they sat back to back so they could watch each other's back. And if you look it up, you'll ask, why is my dog stay laying on my back and it has to sleep right on my back
Mm.
and face the other way? And you'll see that it's within their blood. It's a hereditary thing that has been developed for centuries and centuries and centuries before these animals even became domesticated. That they will sleep back to back to watch each other's area, and each dog would sleep kind of in a circle to keep watch on the outside. And my dog's never, it's just in his blood, it's his nature to be a protector, to position himself like that to watch my back while I sleep. And that could be said about humans. Is it in our nature to be violent? What has violence gotten us? It's been shown as a tool to get us things for centuries and centuries and centuries. And I don't think it's gonna. It's slowly going. It's not good. It's you can see, but is it going to stick? All across humanity right now? Are we at a spot where we might be less violent? Maybe, but I mean, let's look over there at Russia and the Ukraine. Like this is something that is ingrained in us, and we're trying to make it better. I think as a society for the most part, but I don't think it's something that's just going to disappear completely, because we subjugate everything that we come in contact with,
Yeah.
like the dog that I just talked about. We domesticated him, and we conquer most things that we come in contact with.
Yeah. Well, I think even thinking back to the pandemic, we kind of saw how fast things can just turn. So now even,
Yes.
we behave for the most part, but if the lights went out, and we had no, I mean, like no electricity, no sign of when it might come back. How long before things just took a turn?
So the pandemic, you're right. So in the pandemic, I mean, the gun sales went up astronomically. And me, being a passive hippie that I am, I was like watching. There are gun shops. I live outside Philadelphia, so there are gun shops. Walmarts with gun shops and gun shops near me, and the lines are out the door. And I'm over here like, what if I got nothing? I don't have something in my house to protect me, God forbid. So automatically, I'm like, I went to my wife. I'm like, should I buy a gun? And she's like, no, you're over exaggerating. I'm like, yeah, but everyone else that's over exaggerating has guns. And like, what am I going to do if really shit does hit the fan? And I'm not going to be prepared. But obviously, I was just like, I'm too smart right now to buy a gun. I mean, if I'm without, power and electricity for a month, then I think it's time to start looking into my arsenal. But yeah, it will happen. That was a lot of people's first thought. This is a pandemic. We're running out of fucking toilet paper. My ass is itching. I might as well go get a gun. And, people were sick, and the other people that weren't as sick as that, you damn better believe when they see all the people lining up for bullets, and they're like, you know what? I've never shot a gun in my life. I don't like the damn things. I'm very, I'm such a hippie, and all of a sudden that hippie leaves, and like, you need to protect yourself if God forbid something goes down. And it was, you start thinking back to survival, right? That's what we have. That's going to be ingrained into us forever. No matter what, we need to survive. Whatever we need to do to survive, that's going to get done. So I don't think that nature will ever totally leave us. That feeling.
Yeah. I also wonder too, like if this movie was made today, I wonder how different it would be, because then it was all the satire was based at a lot of the news coverage and sitcoms and, of course, like the childhoods and things too. But as far as the media part goes, it was more about the newscaster and the major news networks, because they controlled they controlled everything then. But now you can watch YouTube and you can get 1,000 different opinions from anyone. So now would it be a social media thing? Would it be like the TikTok killers or something? How different would it be now?
I don't think it would be that much more different. I think the themes are still apparent today. I brought up the mass shootings that have consistently been going on, and kids that are, and gun control issues that we have today. Of course, it would have to be made a different style. You get on YouTube and there's some dress. I see, cartel videos on YouTube with millions and millions of views of somebody about to get his head chopped off. And this doesn't stop. Now that the medium has changed, I don't think the obsessions or the need to be famous, I still think that is still apparent, even with YouTube being, what I consistently watch most. I still think these are these topics are still apparent today, and it would still work, but I believe it would have to be kind of a different style in order to be such a hit movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do wonder. It seems like the younger generations now they're shying away from the violent. I don't know, but I mean, I think it seems like the younger generations now are obsessed more with celebrities and like entertainment. Like,
Right.
yeah,
I believe that you're correct about that. Like I have, a child that watches YouTube and the personalities we find on YouTube and how much money he's enamored with, how successful he is, how famous he is. And yes, you're right. Like people get on YouTube to try to get that one view that'll get them millions and millions, and they keep going with whatever it is that got them there. But I it's popularity, being famous and recognized. I think you're right. I think many of the kids, follow these guys on social media, because that they have a connection with if that person might comment like our stars back in the day. It was like, wow, I'm at a baseball game and this guy's going to sign my ball. No, like these guys can comment on a YouTube post, and then you're like, oh, you're
yeah.
starstruck, and that person could reach out to you. You have more access
Hmm.
to many of these famous people these days, I believe.
Is that a good thing? Just in general, you think to have more
I don't
access?
think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, unfortunately, my 10-year-old, he is enamored with Jake Paul,
Hmm.
and he likes him so much that I kind of can't say anything bad about him. So I just kind of like be nice about it, but I don't like how they act and things like that. And my kid looks up to that, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. It is. It is. And now I think another thing with guns and gun control, it's interesting because Hollywood often rails against guns and violence, but they sensationalize it all the
Yeah,
time. So the same people,
it's just what this movie was doing. It was telling you that this is crazy, that that this is being sensationalized, and you still can't get enough of it. Like I said, it was stating you as the viewer are causing this, and we still didn't look away from the movie. We still went through it because we enjoyed it.
yeah, yeah, it is. It does seem like it's almost like making fun of you at the same time. Like it's supposed to be uncomfortable. Um, you're supposed to feel called out a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I wasn't sure what to think about it at first. I wasn't what I was expecting, so I was just a little bit like, this isn't what I thought it would be. But the more I thought about it, the more I like it. So, where do you stand with this one? I know you've seen it a bunch of times and you've liked it for a long time, but
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite movies of all time, but I would put it in there with like, I like every Tarantino movie. Other than, I think I should watch Jackie Brown again, because I wasn't the biggest fan of that one when I've watched it. But I put that in that category, that Tarantino category of ultra violent, excellent dialogue, and excellent character work. And that's the stuff that I love. I can't really, um, it's definitely on I would say my top 50. I would probably put Natural Born Killers because I love the themes that it does address in here. But the whole over the top way it was done, definitely it was a bit of a negative. I
hmm.
loved it. I liked how it was done, but I didn't like that, it was kind of really thrown in your face rather than subtle.
Yeah,
But, when we think of a movie from beginning to end, I watched the whole thing still, I knew what happened, and I was still like, wow, this was a great movie for its time.
it also has a bit of a like, especially in the scenes like you mentioned when they're in the car and there's the other screens playing and there's like where they're driving to and has that really. It almost sounds like a '60s grindhouse,
Yes.
like drive-in theater kind of feeling to it too.
Yeah. And I really like that style of how it was done because That is not that's breaking a mold, and I love when movies do that. Memento, just
Hmm.
go backwards the whole way. Like I love something that takes your typical Hollywood structure and just rearranges it. And Tarantino did that. With this is very he changed the game and the way things are set up and laid out to the viewer. I really love when somebody is doing something new. And I also love when it's the same old Hollywood procedure. You get the beginning, your middle, and your end. But I just like the shots that were taken, and the artistic way that he did this movie, because he definitely stepped out of the mold. With it was very trippy. A lot. It had a lot of acid references to it. Um, the guy, his face would twist up on the mushrooms. That's like a flashback, and it was. I just loved the way it was done. That with it had black and white. It had color. It had off. Two people stand with a green screen of something completely different. Um, and it just really brought you into this crazy mind of two killers and their their view of what is going on during this tumultuous time, that they're out there killing people.
Yeah, also too when Mickey's escaping the prison yard or he's on the horse, and it does give you kind of thinking back to westerns and this larger than life, and it's almost like he's a hero and he's getting extra help because he's some kind of like otherworldly character. So it does play a lot with that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, he was playing himself
Hmm.
as the anti-hero at the end during the interview. He's like, I have evolved, you guys are peons. I have evolved into a killer, which is what we are supposed to evolve into, was his basic outlook. But yeah, he was seen as the hero, and you know what, he got away and lived happily ever after at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So take that, tropes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your bad guy wins, and I love that shit.
Yeah.
I love it when I didn't. I really think, obviously, I believe he should be locked up and for the rest of his life. But it was interesting to see a movie that didn't follow the same old Hollywood bullshit that we keep seeing time and time again.
I don't know. I know we talked about what this movie would be like today if it was made today. I don't know if that it would be made today.
I think you're correct about that. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, with I'm trying to think of the last movie that was ultra violent that came out in the theater. That was a big hit, and I can't really think of that. I believe that we, in the midst of cancel culture and things like that, I believe you're right. This movie and the producers would never back this type of movie today. And that's unfortunate, because I believe it says a lot about who we are and our society. But yeah, I don't think it might be able. It depends, because we are the ones who are buying the movie tickets. But we're not buying them for our kids. But I think it could possibly get done today, but they would definitely have to cut a whole shit ton out.
Yeah.
I mean, because we do not have a good female protagonist in this. She is abused. She's Mallory. I think is also was suffering from some um, that syndrome where you're captor. I
Oh,
forget
like
what that's
Stockholm
called.
syndrome.
Stockholm, right? She's surrounded by this man, this powerful presence, and I don't think she was, the best of female characters, but she was a badass.
Mhm. Yeah, the also even movies like John Wick, though. I mean, they're ultra violent too, but I think without Keanu Reeves, I'm not sure that that series would have made it very far.
I think that's more that flashy violence, which with Keanu Reeves. And when we're talking about a movie like this is more horror-esque in certain
Hmm.
aspects. Um, yeah, I think your regular action movies like John Wick and stuff are still pretty violent, but I don't they did not really scratch the surface of this type of
Yeah.
violence. It is yes, shoot 'em up, bang, but we are not getting a whole picture of the guy's face when he gets shot in the head. It's not that gory. We're natural born killers. It definitely went over the top
Yeah.
in place.
Yeah. The very beginning of the diner was a perfect introduction to them, I think, and their kind of like what they did and kind of characters they were. So it's a good introduction.
Yeah, I loved. Yeah, that's one of the parts of that movie that I remembered. It was her just flipping out, just like, "Come here, fucker! Yeah, you want to dance?" Like that was just she just. I remember her acting, and I still remember that scene to this day, even before I watched it again. I do remember that scene. I really loved I love that in Kill Bill, the animation that came in. It wasn't the best, but I love that part in Kill Bill when that animation entered. I wish more people did something like that.
Hmm.
More directors. Just take chances. Go out there and see what you can do. You know, Tarantino isn't so popular because he stuck to the mold. He went out there and just you know reinvented, at least for me, reinvented what good movies should be, in
Hmm.
my opinion.
Do you have a favorite scene in this one?
In this one, yeah, it's probably that beginning scene.
Hmm.
Like that was great, where she's just minding her business, and in come these redneck assholes, and she just slices them up. I mean, uh, Mickey cut that dude's finger off and it fell in his shoe, and he kicks it away. I was like, that's great. I mean, there are some excellent scenes in here, and I love it when Robert Downey Jr. gets blown away.
Hmm.
Um, I love that, going into that scene where it was like a sitcom,
Hmm.
and you got your typical family, which was what you've seen in every sitcom. The perfect family with the husband, the wife, the boy and the girl, and the boy's in like a kiss makeup and stuff, and she's in some crazy outfit and she has braces on. It's just there are a lot of great scenes in this movie, that I won't forget for a long, long time to come.
I wonder how different it would have been if Tarantino directed it, or if he would direct it now, like did his interpretation of it. I wonder how different it would be.
I I thought it was very
Hmm.
Tarantino-esque, because when he would have probably chopped it up and made different storylines at different times, because he does. I think the dialogue would have been a lot better.
Hmm.
Not that I didn't like it in here, but I think he could have definitely added a little more and maybe not made it as so loud and flamboyant, and just made it more believable. I think when we got to Tommy Lee Jones and who was the warden, and the reporter, Robert Downey Jr., it seemed that their acting was just so over the top, and it bothered me just a little bit.
Hmm.
And I think Tarantino probably could have made the dialogue flow a little better, that it didn't need to do that. Um, but yeah, I can't wait for my next Tarantino movie. I I don't know when it's coming out.
Favorite Tarantino movie?
Yeah, mine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be Pulp Fiction all the way. I need to watch Once Upon a Time again because I heard I didn't like that as much, and but somebody said it's better on a rewatch. So I was gonna give it a shot again. How about yours?
If I had to choose, probably Reservoir Dogs. Just it might be
Oh yeah,
because of just the because back in the '90s, you know when this was all happening, it was like, whoa, like this is just something totally different, and it really like reinvigorated my interest in movies and
yeah.
kind of like it was a whole
Hmm.
new thing. It was really neat, and it's very like for Reservoir Dogs is very contained and very you know all the characters are you're invested and you're trying to figure out what's happening and you get the pieces here and there. But yeah, I just love Reservoir Dogs. Pulp
I
Fiction, of
love how
course,
our
can't go
bad
wrong. But
yeah, our bad guys are intelligent
mhm.
in Reservoirs. That was the big thing because when you listen to them talk, you're like, these guys have more than just being a bad guy. You know, even with Pulp Fiction, like, it's a royale with cheese. Like, we're oh, they don't mess with the metric system out there in Amsterdam. Like, these were conversations that weren't your run of the mill, just stupid bad guys talking. These were interesting things they were saying. And I love how Tarantino can do that. And when they had that whole discussion at the table about what
The colors.
no, what
Wow.
Like a Virgin was about, or what Madonna song
Oh
was
yeah.
about. And yeah, it was just like just amazing dialogue that gave you such amazing characters, and that were intelligent and funny, and it just every most of his movies I really love.
Hmm. So who, if someone hasn't seen Natural Born Killers, who would you recommend it to? Who should watch it?
Oh, anybody that watches grimdark or that reads grimdark fantasy, even people that might have liked Blood Meridian,
Mhm.
I think that they have a lot of parallels in my opinion. And let's just remember this is a '90s movie, and it's not as polished as some of the things we see today, but it's excellent, and I think everybody should definitely watch it and discuss it.
Yeah. It's a good one. I don't know why it took me so long. It took you to, to be like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I told you, I'm like, you got to get in on this, man. I was shocked because that was definitely one of those movies that was a staple. If I bought a DVD, which I used to have DVDs, that I collected back in the day of movies that I loved, Natural Born Killers was on it. A lot of, it definitely made the shelf.
Mhm.
If I had 50, it would make the shelf for sure.
Nice. Well, cool. Well, thanks is there anything else you can think of about Natural Born Killers?
No, no, go out and watch it. If you guys haven't done it, come on. It's Woody Harrelson
Yeah.
in his prime. One of my favorite actors, and he's withstood the test of time still. He's still getting pretty good roles.
Oh yeah. Still doing pretty good stuff. I think I'm not sure how he ages, but he doesn't look.
No, he
He
looks
looks
the
good.
same in this and as he does in. I think this was his breakout from being a Cheers guy.
Oh yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, going from being a dumb bartender in Cheers to I think this being one of his first movies, that really put him on the map for you know directors looking to make movies and films.
Yeah. That was good stuff. Yeah. I'm glad you encouraged me to finally watch it. It was worth it.
Glad you
Yeah.
did,
Good
man.
stuff. Well, I appreciate you coming by. I know you're busy, so thanks for making time.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We'll have to do it again soon.
If I wasn't, if you weren't, uh, if I wasn't such an old man, I would join you tonight for.
Oh, Mirror's Truth.
Yeah, I'm. literally in the middle of it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think we're actually you're doing 1 through 14.
1 through 7 tonight, and then we're doing
Oh yeah,
the
I
other.
think I'm at that part. Yeah, I would definitely join you, but I'm
It's
getting
late.
old.
Yeah, it's
That's what
good.
that is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
good.
bedtime
It's getting late.
around 10 o'clock.
All these West Coast people like, I need to do it late. Yeah, it's good. It's late.
It's no problem.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll join you at the end. Did I got an arc for his last book, so I need to finish that up and then read this one, and I want to put a review of his last book out on the day it releases so that people can hopefully see it and go check out that series because I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and we're talking about Manifest Delusions by Michael R. Fletcher. So yeah,
Yes.
we're trying to time it just right. So hopefully it'll work out.
Good
We'll
deal.
see.
Good deal.
But yeah, you can join us anytime whenever you feel like staying up late.
Yeah, I will do that. If I like to think I'm still a rock star.
Yeah.
I'm in bed by 9:30.
Yes.
So maybe one day I can relive my
Your
my
youth.
glory days and stay up till 10 and talk to you guys about Mirror's Truth and the Manifest Delusion series.
Nice. Yeah, we'll plan something fun.
All right.
For anyone who wants to get in touch with you, where's the best place to find you?
Best place to find me is on YouTube. I'm the Black and Blue Collar Reader. And I review adult and dark fantasy, and I review whatever I want. Actually, I'm getting into manga, I'm getting into historical fiction and classics. So just hit me up on YouTube. Come along for the ride.
Nice. And those links will be down below. So go check out Dan's stuff. Good stuff. Well, thanks again, Dan. Thanks for coming by.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
anytime. We'll talk to you. We'll do it again soon.
Definitely.